source tools for our entire pipeline. I would say like 98% is free and open source tools, but we still have certain tools installed in our office machines to convert certain files which are given by the clients, which of course we cannot avoid. So yeah, we would, I mean, our production happens mainly using free and open source tools, but there are cases where you need certain files to be translated. We do have our own licenses to do that. So yeah, uh, and having said that, we have worked in like movies like uh, Urumin, Pokri Raja, or we did 3D animation portions, fully 3D animated portions for certain movies, and also we did pre-visualization for certain movies. For example, how a movie has to be shot. So it's more of a rehearsal inside a computer for shooting itself. So that makes your life easy when you go into the sets and start shooting. And you also can budget certain stuff. How many cameras you need, how many people you need on the set, kind of thing. There are a lot of budgeting which can happen using inside a computer, and those things really help in taking more shots per day and thereby reducing the budget effectively. So we have worked for pre-visualization in certain movies, and other movies we have done production itself. And there are few movies wherein we worked on full CGI shots. As in, we worked in a movie called Managaram, which had close to 300 shots in the movie. You wouldn't be able to make out whether that's visual effects or anything, because most of them are invisible shots. Like there is a shot where a person drives a Jaguar. That car is not a Jaguar; it's actually a Skoda. We have replaced that Skoda into a Jaguar. These kind of stuff we do. So that's what we are. And one of the recent works is the Kuti Story lyrical video that we did for upcoming movie Master. And one more thing which you would have seen is the Talapakatti restaurant advertisements. There are a couple of advertisements which are done in animation, which has been done by our studio. So yeah, having done the introduction part, I'll probably dive right into the session itself. So yeah, let's see, like let's demark, I mean, have a clear line between what is virtual, what is real, and what is augmented. Okay, so when you say real, most of the people think it's only what we can touch. Let's say I can touch the phone, so it is real. As a matter of fact, what is real is whatever you can sense is actually real. If you know, smell is real. All the sense, if somebody touches you, it's real. And you see something, that's real. That's how we perceive reality. So something in front of us and something our brain can wrap around, that is what we perceive as reality. Okay, and honestly, making it simpler would be, whatever is true is real. Okay, and when I say that, there is a lot of gray areas. Whatever I think is true might not be true for you. So let's not get into the philosophical side of things, but I hope you understand. Reality is one single person's experience, whatever they are seeing, whatever they are smelling, whatever they are hearing. So let's keep that aside for now. So whatever I know, whatever I can see is real to me, whatever I can touch is real to me, my experiences are real to me, my feelings are real to me. So but my feelings might not be real to you. That's the gray area here. Okay, now looking at what is virtual. When you say virtual, the definition itself, let's say, let me share my screen, and probably I've got a couple of definitions. Look, let's say virtual. Okay, what it says is, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, Mr. Jyotirmoy, we can see.
Says almost or nearly as described, but not completely or according to strict definition. So what it means is, it's not real, but very close to real. Okay, so it makes your brain think it is real, but it's not actually the truth. It's not the real one. For example, it's kind of a duplicate of the same thing, clone of the same thing. When you say clone of something, that something is the real one, and the clone is always a clone. Okay, so that's by definition virtual. Okay, so now I'll get to augmentation later. So now, from what is real And what is virtual? Let's say broadly, we can say whatever occurs in the nature by itself is real, and whatever humans create could be a broad definition of what is virtual. Okay, it doesn't exist in nature, and we try to mimic nature or create something which already exists. Okay, so that's kind of virtual. This is a broad definition. Let's not get into argument saying no. There are better definitions of virtual and real, but this would suffice for this session. So let's say virtual is something close to real. So now let's think about it. Let's say I see a landscape in real life, and I'm looking at another painting which is close to no the same scenery. So that way, like we say, okay, yeah, that looks real. We would never say that is real. We would always say that looks real. So this is the major difference between what is real and what is virtual. Probably, you can take a photograph of that landscape. It's still virtual. It's not actually real. So clearly, the the, the real thing which exists is one thing, and a copy or a replica or a version of it is virtual. Okay, and when you say it looks real, it means it comprises most of the elements which makes it real. But how do we know that, like, painting is a painting and real world is real? That is actually because there could be some sounds coming from the real world, or probably there is in case you are looking at when going to a restaurant, you have the feel, you smell all the food and all that. And in terms of virtual, you don't get all those senses, all the complete senses of a place. And no, there is no bird chirping, or there is no water flowing, there is no sound of it, there is no temperature coming in, there is no wind happening. When you're looking at a painting, you don't feel the breeze on your face. It's only that when you are in the real place that you feel all these things. So now there is a limited set of uh, senses, but the rest of the senses make you feel it is real. Like, say, no, the visual is 100% real. Like when you click a photograph, you get most of the visual elements from that place, and okay, you see that, yeah, this place. But you would have already noticed that when you go to a place and see it through your eyes, it's no, it's a totally different experience than looking at a photo. You can look at Taj Mahal as much as you want, but you don't actually experience the scale of it, or you don't experience the technically, most of the time it is the scale. A big monument, you can never do justice with a photograph, because it's always in your hand. It's not like that huge. You're not tilting your head and seeing things. And the second part is, there is no depth to it. If you look at it, an image basically is always 2D. Where, what I mean when I say 2D is, like, you can't turn the photograph and see the backside of the building. It's always a white sheet. And if you move your head, you're not going to see more of the background. Okay, in real world, like, if you're looking at a building and, like, you move few steps, you see something which is behind the building, which was occluded initially, which was hidden initially by the building. Okay, so let's say when I move my head, I start seeing more of the monitor. Otherwise, it's like, hidden right now. This doesn't happen in a photograph. So our eyes and brain have a clear way of understanding what is real and what is not. Okay, using smell, sound, and stuff is one thing, but even the visual thing is very. The brain has a very nice way of finding out, like, this is 2D, and there is no depth to it, and there is no distance between what and where I am and what I am seeing. So that uh, sense of understanding what is real and what is not is the challenge in getting virtual reality and augmented reality believable. Okay, let's have that very clear. Now, when you say virtual reality, or when you say augmented reality, it means that we are creating something which makes the brain feel it is close to real. Okay, so what is the, there's a lot of hype about, like, uh, uh, augmented reality, virtual reality, and, like, there are new technologies coming in and all that. But as I was talking right now, a photograph is already a virtual reality thing. The only problem is you cannot see anything beyond that frame. That is the issue. So it is a real, it's a copy of a real thing, but it's not that enhanced. Okay. So during years, what has happened is, like, the perception of reality, uh, I mean, the way to deliver reality has changed, I would say. So instead of a photograph, you would have found certain 3D holo. I mean, there would be stickers on the scale where you tilt that and you would see a different side of the same object. Okay, that could be. I mean, we used to have Spider-Man and He-Man and all that. Now it could be different superheroes like Iron Man and Hulk and all that. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. You will get free stickers in lace chips and all that. Those are called lenticular prints actually, which means you see three images but at different angles. Okay, the sticker has three sides, very small small lines. On each side, a different picture is printed. For example, when you look at it from the front, you see the front of Iron Man, and when you go little to the right, you see the side of the Iron Man. On the left, you see the other side of Iron Man. What happens is your brain perceives as though it is actually in front of you. When I say three images, it's actually not three. There are more than 8 or 9 images to get this illusion. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. From this angle, you are seeing all these faces of the grid, and from the front you are seeing a different set of grids. So it seamlessly merges between all those 8 angles and it gives you a certain depth. So from 2D photographs, it evolved into a subtle 3D which could make it feel bit real. Okay. So then again, these enhancements has advanced so much, so that, like, we get very real experiences today. As in, you feel as though you're in a different room. I could still be in this room with all the computers around me, but I could feel like, I'm in Himalayas, or I'm near Taj Mahal, and it gives you an actual sense of scale. Okay, how do they do it? And probably we'll get to that gradually. So as I said, like, lenticular 3D was one way of making things pop out of 2D photographs. And then later, let's say we will move little few years forward, and these games, 3D games, very real games that you would have played already, started making you feel that you are actually in that place. How were they able to do it? Is because it gave you little more interaction to the experience. For example, you could move your mouse, and you could see a different area. In a picture, you never were able to move anything actually. It was more of, you're moving your camera, or you're moving your head. So the mouse was attached to your head, or a camera which is actually looking at the place. So an example would be, I'm just sharing you an experience, game footage. This is a game called Far Cry. I'm a very big fan of this game. So looking at the landscape, it's closed. I mean, you can see my screen, right?
Uh, Ipo question, Shivan. Now we can see. Yes, we can see.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So looking at it, like, these this is almost like, photoreal kind of landscape with all the disturbance. This is a game you're playing, and you're interacting with the world, and there's a dog which is your friend. It gives you a very real experience of what you're actually doing. Okay, so you're moving your head and you're seeing a different area. In a photograph, it would just be a 2D this thing. Now looking at it, like, you see a lot of, when you move your head, you see more of that building, more of the guy, and more of enemies and all that. So what makes this frame real is, one is the interaction part which I was talking about, moving your head left and right. But other than that, looking at all these textures, all the sky, all these lighting, shadows, all these fine details in the grass, and all the atmospherics happening, this is actually enhancing the experience of reality. Okay. So after a while, you start thinking, you're actually in that city or probably that county where you're playing a hero who's saving the entire place. So you start forgetting that this is a virtual world because it's so real. There are like places in the same game wherein you're driving a vehicle and all these things happen in real time. It's not it's rendered. It's not a video. You can go anywhere in this game and you can move your camera. You can do whatever you want with your this thing, and it's all the motion blur, all the shadow, everything is same. So one part is your interaction, and the second portion would be how real you make the world. Okay, so that takes a lot of effort if you look at that. What I mean is that you'll have to observe how a road is, like what trails would have been there with a car travels on it, and how the tree. If you look at it, there is no tree which is similar. Every tree would be different. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So earlier it used to be, same tree would be replicated many times, and they didn't have a lot of optimization done, so they couldn't use this many number of trees. Nowadays, like every tree in this world is different, unique. Okay, because it is all generated by rules. So that kind of realism in terms of randomization, the scale difference. Not all trees are of same size. There are smaller ones and the huge ones, and there are different types of trees, different types of grasses, and the way grass merges with the road and all that. People have started deciphering nature in terms of formulae. When I say that, what I mean is people now know how grass actually grows into a road. They know that there is math to it. There is a certain way of shortest path which it takes, or path of least resistance it takes. So that kind of rules are being deployed on inside games, so that it makes so believable for you. Okay, this is. I mean, earlier games used to be very you could actually understand that these things are games. These are rocks like which are done inside a computer. Probably cars are like very low quality. Nowadays, it is not the case. You get the best of quality in game engines. So the key element here is deceiving the brain to make you know deceiving the brain to think that it is real. So what all makes this reality is all these small elements, as in observing real world, how the paint is torn on a school bus. There'll be a lot of areas where you could see very fine textures being just give me one moment, I'll show an example. So all these textures, what happens after a vehicle is explode? I mean, this has just exploded, and there is a lot of smoke coming. There is a lot of rust and paint and stuff. Earlier games just used to make this black and get done with. So they were not very keen on getting the details. So now these kind of details are taken. For example, like somebody has applied brake here, so it starts from here and it has done a turn. So these kind of details have started merging the real and virtual worlds. So that's the key thing. Now looking at it, this is just a game. This is not a virtual reality or augmented reality or a very nowadays, like that's the craze right now, virtual reality and augmented. These are equally good games which are interactable, and it makes you feel that you are in that world. Now let's take this and extend it to the next level, wherein you are actually not using any mouse or keyboard. You're only moving your head. Okay. Now how do you make, let's say I'm looking at this monitor and move my head away, but I can't see anything in the monitor. That's the actual problem statement, right? So what people started doing is have the monitor fixed on in front of the eyes, and when I move this, what happens? Exactly what happens inside a game. Okay, inside a game, like when somebody is moving, okay, this guy is moved right. Okay, what happens? The entire world would have moved left. So that can be done also using an input like into the head movement. Let's say I'm attaching this mouse to my head, and when I do this, it's happening. Okay, it's like attaching this mouse, but of course this cannot be in 3D, it cannot be raised and all that. But imagine you have a mouse which can be attached to your head. When you move this, the entire screen moves. It's fairly very easy to understand, I guess. So this 3D mouse is called gyroscope. Okay, inside any modern Android phones, you got a small chip which is called gyroscope, which actually records what your phone is doing. For example, whether it's rotating in any one of these axes, okay, X, Y, or Z. Okay, then what happens? Very similar to the mouse, you can do right, and I mean you can just move your head. So let's say you've attached your phone with the gyroscope onto your head. So when you do this, it knows my phone has turned this way, and obviously it can be translated into the game. Okay, this is exactly what's being done on virtual reality, cardboard based virtual reality. For example, this is one of the cardboard based virtual reality headsets. Okay, what we do is we just open it, put our phone with which has a gyro. Okay, otherwise it wouldn't work. So this is a bigger phone. I had a smaller phone earlier, so I had bought this, but we'll just close this. And what happens, this display would show something through this, but the movement comes from the actual phone. Okay, so the phone would already be doing the virtual thing, but I can these are lenses which actually focus on the screen, and I can put it on my head and see through it. So I feel that the display is changing in front of me. So instead of a game interacting through a mouse and moving the screen, now it has changed from a head moving, changed to a head movement, and the display being changed right in front of you, like this. So that was the natural extension. It's not something new. No, you can't say like virtual reality just dropped from space and it's there here. Virtual reality and I mean VRML has been here for like more than 30 years or so, from what I know. Okay, so I have developed VR. I mean, there used to be a language called VRML, which is called Virtual Reality Markup Language. Okay, which is like HTML, which is used to develop websites. You can use VRML to embed 3D objects inside a website. It was like, when I started the company, it was like my earlier company. So it was close to 20 years, at least I know. So before it used to exist before that. So these things are not new. These things are not, like 10-year-old or a 5-year-old technology. It is like fairly very, very old technology. And there used to be devices and displays like this, which was huge. It used to be a huge helmet, and people used to wear that, and there'll be a lot of wires moving from that. And, I mean, it was so tedious to capture all this rotation. Now it has all come down to a chip, which is which could fit into just your thumbnail sized chip. So things have changed a lot. Okay, so now it's a game, but driven through your head movement. This is exactly what virtual reality is. There is nothing complex about it. It's just a game. So start imagining about creating games. You are actually creating virtual worlds, and drive it through your head movement, and the display is right in front of you. That is virtual reality. Okay, there is no, I mean, if somebody else like confuses you with some other terms, just ignore that. Try and read about virtual reality with this definition in mind. You'll understand it better. Okay, so it's just 3D games, but with head movement and the display in front of you. So now that we understand what virtual reality is, I'll show you a few more examples. Like an there's an application called Everest VR. You'll be going into an expedition of climbing the Everest. So you're actually in that world, and you can trek along and do a lot of stuff. See, they're actually picking all the gears that they need. They make it as real as possible, make the situation real, the gameplay real, and all the physics real. So you actually feel that, you're going to that particular place and doing all your stuff on your own. So you could, there's a lot of physics involved. So it's gradually getting to the real, very close to the real thing. You can pick up an apple and throw at somebody and he would react. There are a lot of small things which are happening right now. So the experience is enhanced through the visual, this thing, the physics, and sound and the gameplay. There are a lot of ways the light is interacting with the surface. A lot of shadows happening. The flags are very translucent, and there is wind happening. So you observe the real thing, and so this is no different from a game right now. I hope you understand. But inside the glasses, you're going to see two images. Okay, that's the main difference with 3D virtual reality. For example, now I'll have to explain certain things regarding our vision. Okay, human vision is stereo vision. When I say stereo, you would have heard the term stereo for audio. Okay, it's either mono or stereo. Stereo means right and left. There are two different channels when you hear two different audio, and you feel the perception. You perceive depth. Okay, you would hear somebody calling on the right, and you turn that way. It's more like Dolby and Atmos and stuff inside a theater. It's like different spaces. Dolby and Atmos, all these things have more than two, but technically it's spatial sound. Okay, now when I talk about vision, it is very similar to that. When I say stereo vision, it's stereo because we have got two eyes. Okay, if we got only one eye, there is very less perception of depth. Only with the difference, only because of the distance between these two eyes, we actually perceive depth. For example, when I have my hand in front of it, I see two different images in two different eyes, right? But my brain would actually connect both of those things and create an image which is 3D image of this place. And if I slightly move my head, or I look at something, mark it using one eye, and open the other eye, you'll actually understand that it has changed. The perspective has changed because it's 6 centimeters, close to 6 centimeters away from each other. Okay, the center of the eyes. Now, that is the difference which the brain needs to understand how far things are. Okay, and with a little bit of movement, it is perfect. Like you can't miss out. Like even there are times when you keep your head still and you you have an illusion whether the objects are in front or back. But once you move your head or tilt your head, it's very clear that what object is in front and what object is at back. So stereo vision really helps you perceive depth. So in virtual reality, since all these things are anyway created, you could put two cameras inside that 3D world and stream it to both the eyes inside these devices. Okay. For example, a display could be split into two, and you would see two videos on it. Okay. Let me just try whether I can find a VR video in YouTube and show you how it works. Give me one moment. Yeah, I think I found one. So if you guys look at the video, I don't know whether you're able to see it. So I'm just moving my camera.
வீடியோக்கு ஒரே நிமிஷம்
நான் அதில் இதுலேயும் காமிச்சிடுறேன்.
ஓகே.
I'll also show on the screen. But when I'm moving the camera, mobile, there is a lot of things that are changing on screen, right? Like it's like moving your head. So when I switch to VR mode, what happens is it gives you two two videos. Just give me a second. Gives you two videos, which means different video for each eye, which is 6 centimeters apart inside the virtual world. So what happens? You start actually feeling that you are in that space and your eyes are far, spread apart and inside that world. So from a 2D photograph to this kind of virtual experience, people have started exploring ways to make the brain think that it is real. Okay, I'll just show you the same video in YouTube here. See, this is a video, this is just a 3D, but I'm interacting onto that video. I'm actually moving my mouse. I'm just looking around. Though it's a video, you'll be able to look around. Okay. But I'm not sure, like, I don't think I can switch to VR on this desktop, but on my mobile, I can switch to VR. I'm seeing the, just give me a second. This is the same video that it's playing. Okay. I hope you're able to understand. Probably it was visible, right?
Yes, it was visible. Before we're seeing.
Yeah, Netflix ad.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I'm not able to. Yeah, so it's an interactive video wherein you can look around what's happening and you're actually controlling where you're looking. Okay, so in the mobile phone, the screen will be split into two, and once you put the there are like different types of VR boxes and all that. So I just put the phone in this and slide it along, slide it inside it, and wear these glasses. You start seeing those two screens through a lens, so that you actually feel the entire area is covered. So there are different types of VR boxes available, but the key is your mobile phone should have that gyro. Okay, otherwise, like your head movement is not going to be captured. The regular phone, yes, of course, you can see static ones. You'll not be able to interact. It will be one static view. But with phones with gyroscope, you start to see a lot more, of the world. So that's pretty much what virtual reality is. How real you make the experience is like only as good as you observe and as good as you develop the world itself. So the game that I showed you, like there are far realistic games than Far Cry, but if you make it believable, people would start getting immersed in it. Even in 3D games, we get lost when it's all with very clear 3D in two eyes and all depth and sound and everything. It's all the more close to reality. So from a 2D image to a stereo virtual glasses, things have evolved. Now I hope you guys would have a fair idea of what virtual reality is, because it's not something complex. It's just a game, stereo, and split it into two eyes and display. Okay. Obli, do you think there is something that I could add? If you got any questions or with a doubt in the, probably we can clear regarding VR right now.
Yeah. Okay, so there is one question from Shivesh. Others, if you have any questions until now, what Shiv Prasad has spoken, please ask regarding the virtual reality. Shivesh has asked, are there VR gloves? VR gloves.
Yes, VR gloves. Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. Huh? So yes, thing is, now what I've shown is mobile-based VR, right? So the next step is the issue mobile-based VR is that it is limited by the power of your mobile phone. mobile phones are not that powerful when it comes to a lot of frames and 360-degree images being rendered real time. So the quality of what you can play inside mobile is very limited. So what has started what happened after mobile VR, or probably parallel to mobile VR, is that people started developing applications for the desktop and just started streaming the video stream to displays like mobile. Okay, so those devices currently are called VR head-mounted devices. Okay, head-mounted displays or devices. It's called HMDs. It used to be there earlier, like the bigger helmets I said, but lately it has been very compact, but still with wires. What happens is the video stream, instead of getting into a monitor, it will come to a display, very high resolution display, probably 2K or 4K display, which means each eye would get very high definition video, so that like you don't see pixels. For example, if you put this mobile phone on the boxes that I say, the lenses would zoom into the pixels and you'd start seeing that small RGB pixels. But when when you're playing on a head-mounted device, you get a very high definition display, so you don't see that small pixelation. Why I'm talking about the displays? Because those displays comes with controllers. Okay, controllers, when I say I'll just show you an example of the controller. I'll just share my screen once again. So just give me a second. So this is called HTC Vive. It's from a company called HTC, and this is a virtual reality setup. There are modern ones which are HTC Vive Pro and all that. What this does is this is the display, and this usually comes with a huge wire connector. I mean, they're not showing it in the marketing materials, but the way it usually is let me just show you the actual possible. They don't seem to have that wire. It's a Google thing. It never shows you bad images. Okay. So yeah, so this is like with huge wires. These are controllers wherein you can actually interact with the buttons inside it. Initially, these controllers would be like in this VR, Everest thing. You're seeing this hand, right? This is a virtual hand inside the world, but it is actually driven by the controllers. Okay. Now, yes. Now, what it has evolved into is a glove. Okay. There are companies like Manus VR. Okay, they produce these kind of gloves, and when you move a finger, it actually moves the object inside the 3D software. Okay, so there are kind of gloves which are actually replacing these controllers. Even Oculus has these kind of controllers. Okay, so now what it has become is, from wired versions, it has started becoming standalone devices. Okay, but how do they do the processing? It is not mobile anymore, but they have a dedicated processor which would sit in their backpack, or probably they can put it in their pocket and actually drive the video. Okay, it is not like less power. I mean, it's more power than a mobile phone. So it's a trade-off between a heavy computer and a mobile phone, so somewhere in between. So these displays have these controllers. Sorry, I just clicked on the stop share. Yeah, can I actually move this?
Yeah, I think it keeps coming in the screen, but it's not a big problem.
Stop share பண்ண இல்ல எனக்கு அந்த tab எடுக்கிறதுக்கு
Oh, tab. Okay.
Okay, நான் இது பண்ணிடுறேன். Yeah. So these gloves, what I told you about Manosphere, can be used to drive these hands. So that was the question. I mean, I hope I have answered you, Shivesh. Yeah.
Yes, I think Shiva, you answered him. I think yes.
Okay.
There is one more question. Then we can move on to the next topic.
Yes, please.
Um, how can these? I mean, the virtual reality can be adapted for the education segment. I mean, I think
Yes.
the applications. I think they're talking about applications.
Application சொல்றப்ப சொல்லினா probably I finished the application for virtual reality, then move to augmented reality. Then yeah, I think it's easier. So
Oh,
like any medium for that matter, for example, a photograph can be used to educate somebody. Probably a video can be used to educate somebody. A game could be used to educate somebody. Uh, of course, virtual reality can be used to educate somebody. Example is like there are games which are used to treat certain phobias, certain fears. For example, people have fear of spiders. Okay, so when they see real spiders, like they actually feel that fear. But uh, when you tell them this is actually not real, like close to real, and you actually don't make that spider very real, you make it toy-like, but it will still move like real spiders. So they would look inside the virtual world and say, "Yeah, I can see that it behaves like a spider. So I have got 50% of the fear, not 100%." And they start interacting with that spider, play with it or move and push it away with their hand and all that. They start shedding their fears. So there are VR applications like this, very serious applications, not only games. Similarly, probably you can. I have a lot of ideas in terms of virtual reality. For example, let's say you want to teach history. Okay, now you say there was this time when people used to live in darkness and somebody struck two stones and they uh, invented fire, or probably discovered fire. I'm not sure which is the right word, but you could take them to that place. No, every people, like very early humans roaming around and hunting. So you're actually in that world, and kids would start experiencing it for real rather than having their own imagination. When you say early humans, they would think it is like very old people or very different kind. I mean, they wouldn't imagine the exact scenario. They would have their own picture. So that is why we used to have pictures in the book about like Stone Age men and all that. But now these things can be 3D. And when you say like dinosaurs walk the earth, you could actually put them in a world where dinosaurs are there and they could see like these are the different types of dinosaurs. So it's actually extension of a textbook or extension of any material that already exists. You could transform that into a fully 3D full virtual world, and you could export them to that place. Okay, you could tell any story. You could tell a story of a company which evolved from gun making company to a motorcycle making company. So how these guys were doing it, and you could actually witness it up close. And probably the freedom fight of a country, or how Taj Mahal was built, how Tanjore Big Temple was built. You could actually go there. You could teach them, this kind of architectural stuff were done and lines. You could do a lot of stuff on that. Yeah. So this is just an extension of an illustration or a video. You could go to whatever level your imagination can. So yes, of course, it can be used in the education.
thank you, Shiva. I think we can move on to the last part and
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. So now the word augment means, I'll just my screen is still shared, right?
No, no, Shiva. We're just seeing you.
Okay, just give me a second. So yeah, now when you say augment, the word means make something greater by adding to it, okay, or increasing. So let's say you've got a real house wherein you're seeing your regular dining table or dining living room, sofa and all that. If you have a capability to add something to it, for example, let's say you add a pet onto a sofa, or you add a car onto a dining table. It's actually larger than life. It's not the reality anymore. You enhance it by adding something. Okay, that's exactly what happens with augmented reality. Let's say you can bring in a Spider-Man into your house, which is of course no making it greater than what it is actually right now. You could actually talk to a virtual assistant, and probably uh, a bank official. Instead of being a real person, it could be an avatar wherein this guy would come into our house. You could see through an iPad or a mobile phone, you'll see that person. Otherwise, your room is empty. But he would be talking from his own office, and this guy will start moving and doing his action. He'll ask for your ID card, probably ask for a few other details. You'll be providing it, uploading it. Then you say, "Yeah, I've received it." So this kind of enhancement of the real world is called augmented reality. Okay. Even with augmented reality, all these head movement and mobile movement and interaction is all same. The only thing is the world is not entirely created. The world is the actual one that you are in, but you are only adding few elements. You are overlaying certain elements to it. I'll show you a few examples. Let's say this is an empty uh, room that is in the background, but this guy can see a sofa on it. So let's say he's shopping for furniture, and he can drag a sofa from Amazon.com and put it into his living room and see how it looks. Okay, so they have technically enhanced the reality. The same plan, same brick wall, everything is there, but he is seeing a new sofa as though it is in his room. Before even buying, he could make those choices. Okay, what would fit, what would look good, whether this color is fine. So this is one kind of augmentation which could be done, and very similar to that. For this space, this can be not changed to whatever arrangements they like. And and uh, for augmentation, there is one key element to it. For example, there needs to be a certain identification pattern for the camera or the software to lock. For example, what is shown on the screen is a dollar bill, and the phone is pointed on it. So the software understands and recognizes the pattern, which is the dollar, and once it sees the dollar, it triggers another set of images or 3D objects which are actually augmented on the dollar. So it will be a 3D thing basically. Just give me one moment. So, for example, in case you're going somewhere and pointing a camera, it's like I think it's Google Lens, right? Like there is an application called Google Lens where you can point at something in the real world. It will start reading it, identifying it, and tell you something about it. Okay, so internally the identification is what Google Lens is all about, but what augments on it can be the software. For example, it would say it's a red tomato, or it's not fresh, its market price is this, and all that. So what is augmented on it could be data driven, but the recognition itself, it comes from the real world. Yeah, just a second. I'm having a very locked bottom. Yeah, finally. So probably you can pull out your phone and show it. I mean, point it to a street, and it will tell you what all hotels and what all restaurants are available. Probably it can even recognize uh, hoarding of that store. And there are applications which would actually scan a book's title and give you reviews about it. There are a lot of augmentation which have started happening. So it's like identifying something from the real world and attaching and enhance data onto it. That's exactly what augmented reality is all about. So see, this is the pattern that the software recognizes. Okay, so this is a standard pattern which you wear on your hand, and you start pointing your phone onto that pattern. It shows you different watches. Okay, so probably instead of going to a store, I mean, with all this COVID situation, I think these are going to be no mainstream right now. So you just have to point your finger, I mean, phone at your wrist, and you're done with. Okay, probably it can even tell you, like, paste a 1 rupee coin on the wrist and point your phone. That way it is easier. You don't have to ship all these wristbands to everybody. So this would definitely start coming. Okay, what you see is the hand is real, and this watch is the one which has been augmented onto it. And looking at this, it's a floor plan, and once the floor plan is detected, it actually gives a 3D version of it. Because let's say you're distributing a real estate brochure, okay, you can't give 3D pop-up books no, for them to see the 3D floor plan, but you can supply an application along with it, and once they open the brochure and point their phone to it, you can see a 3D actual 3D plan of it. So they can rotate around the page, and they'll still see, all from all sides. It's not, very dumb 2D plan actually. So now, I mean, I was supposed to show this for virtual reality. This is one of the virtual reality. I mean, this is a very static 3D sphere, but you have control on where you are looking at. This is like all created in 3D, and we have a navigatable room, but you will not be allowed to move around in this room. You're just a static viewer from one single point. Okay, this is one kind of virtual reality. Of course, extension of an image, nothing more, nothing beyond it. But yeah, and this is another car configurator we have done. So you're actually able to rotate around this car wherever you want. It's not a video; it's just basically a fully 3D experience. Now we can change the color of the interior, wherein the seats are going to change, okay, and probably change the color of the exterior. So instead of buying all, I mean, these are the customizations that we are planning to do for car vendor. So it opens the doors and it shows you what is inside, and change the color of the interiors. You still get. So these are like features on that, but what I'm trying to say is this interaction and the feel of objects that the objects are in front of you, or it is navigatable, is by itself closer to reality. Yeah. And probably you can have, what people do is a shopping area wherein you just point your phone at a store, and it tells you what offers are, what is on offer and what is at discounted price and all that. So, and of course training. So what this guy is doing is pointing his tab on a machine, and it tells you how to remove it, or how to add a, if there is a fault, what is the first step to check, and the next one, and how to solve it. Okay. So yeah, basically from virtual reality, you're just taking the interaction and camera move part, the gyro part, and you're capturing the camera video feed and adding few elements onto it. With virtual reality, it's entirely created in CGI. Here, only those elements which are going to be augmented is created. So it's not a major difference. It's not a huge thing to move from virtual reality to augmented. It's all kind of seamless and in the same world. You don't create the entire world, only that part. So augmented reality is fairly easy, but the challenging part would be to have this object attached to the actual real world. For example, it has to be attached in the right place on the machine. For example, like you're going to, it's a huge aircraft engine. You're just going to remove a part, so it will have to align to the same part when you're pointing the camera. So like the dollar bill thing, it has to identify a pattern. The pattern could be the machine itself, but it's always a challenge to have the camera fully track where it is going. Now with the latest iPhones, there is lidar scanners and lidar sensors which are embedded in it, which makes it fairly very easy. What lidar does is it gives you depth of what objects are at what distance, and that way augmentation is going to be very very easy. And the tracking of this thing, it doesn't have to be on a dollar bill. It can be anywhere. You can move your camera anywhere. It will still figure out what the uh, object is, how far the object is from camera. So things are getting really very advanced these days. The real and virtual would become seamless in probably few decades. I wouldn't say few years, but few decades, yes. It would, in a couple of decades, we would have a very seamless experience in terms of uh, the blend actually. Okay, so did I miss something? I think that's pretty much what I had only in this regard. So probably I can go about questions. Yeah.
Yes, Shiva, that was very, very interesting, and we can't wait to look forward what future holds in
Yeah.
terms of these technologies,
Yeah.
improvising and
Yeah. In terms of one thing that I wanted to say was, any field could leverage these technologies, AR and VR. For example, VR shopping experience is already there. You could go into an Amazon store sitting in your sofa, and you could go to any corner in the world, or you could find any machine, any object at home. In case you want to repair your washing machine, you are just going to point your tab onto it. It will tell you, okay, check this first whether this is working. So all these things are going to be big markets. Basically, shopping is big market, education is big market, and medical animations, basically, for instance, like somebody to teach somebody the parts of a human body or ailments in a specific part of the body. You could point it at a human and say, the shoulder weight. Probably biomechanical measurements could happen, and they would say, like, this guy is, like, his spine is little bent. Those kind of medical applications can happen. And entertainment, of course. Yeah, there is one thing that I missed. Now, what's starting to happen is there are stages. I mean, there are studios which are being constructed to capture action sequences in 3D. For example, I mean, let me. So what they have done is actually constructed, kind of a dome, cylindrical plus dome kind of thing, wherein they are setting up this many cameras and capturing that particular person from all angles. Okay, all possible angles. Okay, so now there is a person performing inside this dome, and there are this many cameras which are capturing this person from all angles. Okay, now that data, yeah, this is the person this is the real person. Now what has happened is it has been created into a 3D object from that video. Since you have a video from all directions, you can create this person in 3D. So you just can interact with this. You can go around and can actually see this person from any angle. I hope you get what I'm saying. Okay, this is actually capturing the person from all 360 degrees. The person would be moving. It's like, you move your head, you see a different view of the same person. In actual 2D video, you're just seeing it from the perspective of the camera. So what happens from here is, these guys would be actually performing inside a room, and you would be watching the movie from a very, I mean, whichever angle you want to be in. Okay, for filmmaking, it is going to be a very phenomenal thing. Although there is difficulties in making the audience look at the right action, but let's say, imagine there is a war happening, and you could actually run among soldiers and still see explosions happening. All these things are going to happen, but it will of course take time. In the filmmaking thing, there is going to be a lot of changes because of all these virtual and augmented stuff. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much what I had in mind only. Probably I can take questions from now. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Shiva. I think that was like very exciting session. Students and participants, please ask questions. Type in the chat box. So we have one question from Akshay. Shiva,
Uh,
how yeah, how long do you think it would take to augment an image into the brain directly using implants or something like stimulating and adding the visual part of the
I
brain?
think it should be a question directed to Tesla. Maybe Elon Musk, I mean.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, they
Is
have
that,
this
what do
new
you think of it,
they
Shiva?
are embedding this. No, they've started exploring with animals and they seem to have succeeded. So probably they would have a clear timeline on that. But I'm afraid it's very. I mean, there are things already existing to take data from the brain outside, but not the other way around. Like now, if Elon Musk succeeds on that, I don't know. It's called what? I mean, Neuralink, I guess. It's called Neuralink. What
Okay.
Elon Musk is exploring. If that succeeds, probably these things should be here in another 30, 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Then there are all the other aspects to it before the technology
Yes.
can be put to use,
There
like
is
ethical
scientific and
factors, social factors.
yeah, social factor and there are a lot of legal stuff and governing stuff that you'll have to cross before, unless you want to be a
Yes.
volunteer on these experiments.
Yeah. So when reality and the virtual world, the line is very thin,
Very
then at
thin.
some point it's going to be so difficult to, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
market. Yeah.
Yes. We have another question.
Yeah, yes, I
From
did. We use Blender. Yeah, I mean, we almost like 100% use Blender for all the 3D asset building or any animation that we do.
Yeah, so even the Putty story was made using Blender only.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
everything is made using Blender.
Everything that we have done, whatever we have seen, probably I'll share the website or YouTube link. But if you search for Real Works, you'll find our YouTube channel or Shiva Prasad Velai. Then if you
You
search
can,
for Shiva,
if you have, you can put in the chat box,
I'll
Shiva, so that
just
they can.
yeah, give me a minute.
So
I'll
others, in the meantime, please, if you have questions, type in the chat box or raise your hand, so I can unmute you so that you can ask the question instead of typing it out. Anyway, I see a lot of people: Srinivas, Vinesh, Sivesh, Kulkarni. If you have questions, please do ask. Ashwin, Aravind, Anand. There's somebody by the name Innovate with the AR. I don't know who that is. So we'll wait for 1 more minute to take questions. I mean, to see if you have questions.
right
And if there are no questions, then we'll
close this.
end the session. Yes.
Sure.
So we're just giving you a minute more to ask questions. If you have enough questions, we'll wait and answer them all.
Yeah, no issues.
I have a question, Shiva.
Yes.
So, okay, before I ask you, there is a question from one of the persons. Let me ask it. So,
Okay.
is there a workaround for file size?
Okay. Have to be very specific. Just give me a second. Yeah. Is there a workaround file? I mean, when you say workaround for file size, can you be a little more specific? Probably you can, unmute your audio and
Yeah,
like you can
you
ask
can
the
ask
question.
directly.
Hi, sir. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, sir. So the question comes from a place where when we're talking about let's say an academic content for a chapter, what we've normally seen is a particular 2 minute or a 3 minute animation is quite size heavy when compared to a normal 2D animation.
Right.
So when we build for an entire chapter, we anticipate it's something that is too heavy. At least it's something, a normal 2D that will cover a whole grade would cover a concept. So
Okay.
that actually limits children from using that for a longer period of time. They just use it for curiosity, but not for a sustained period of time. So
Right.
is there a workaround where we can get the assets from cloud and then
Yeah, I understand. I understand. So when you compare 2D and 3D, of course, there is a lot more data to be stored in terms of a 3D file, because 2D, in case you want to create a sphere, it's just no, the center XY and the radius that you can create a vector-based 2D circle. But in terms of 3D, you have to create all the vertices and start moving all the vertices. There is more data to handle. Of course, 3D would be higher than 2D. The file size, of course, would be higher. But having said that, there are a lot of ways to optimize your meshes. That's one thing. All downloaded meshes are not optimized. That is the reason why most of the project files gets heavy. So to start with, in case you're using Blender or any other tool, there are ways to uh, remove vertices or remove loops of edges, so that the data still remains, but you don't get a lot of meshes, so that the viewport is lagging and the file size is getting heavy and all that. And even if you look at games, there are technologies like there'll be very fine detailed characters, which are the skin pores and everything would be visible, but those should be baked onto textures. Those will be created using textures, or those detailed meshes would be baked. When I say baked, those details will be captured and projected onto a texture, okay, an image. When I say texture, it's an image, probably a JPEG file. What happens is, instead of a 3D mesh data, it becomes a 2D image data, which of course is lesser in size, and you still get close to the same detail. So these things are like game centric technologies, like techniques where we could use to optimize your data. But these are uh, this needs bit of learning. Of course, if you are interested, we can definitely guide you on how to go about it. If you got specific questions, you are free to I'll just send my email ID here. So you're free to email me at this ID, and I can answer specific questions. Probably in case you got a very huge file, how to go about it, I can just answer that. Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Shiva. Any other questions? You can raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Yeah, Kaustubh, is that a question or no?
No, I think he's trying
Oh,
to
reiterating it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the file size question. So
Yeah, of course, as Kaustubh is saying, it also depends on how much load your machine can take. That's exactly one more point. And optimizing it is, of course, for the device. Otherwise, like, if you've got the best machines in the world, I mean, unlimited amount of RAM and graphics card, you don't have to optimize it at all.
thank you. So there's another question from people.
Yeah, how to make virtual reality games without coding or software. So, I mean, I wouldn't say like you need coding.
I am asking what software to use.
Okay.
What software to use without coding?
Without coding, yeah. I mean, there are tools like
Software to use for making virtual reality games without doing the coding.
Yeah, I mean, Shivesh has answered a few of those things: Unreal, Unity, and Blender. Unreal is, I mean, all three engines are great, but Unity and Unreal have a bit of learning curve. It's not like straightforward. I would suggest one more engine, which is called Godot. Okay, you can try that. I would say, like, there are games that you can make without coding, but if you need little complex stuff, you of course need coding. Okay, not very complex stuff. You could do you could get away with small codes which are available online. Tweak it to match your needs. But any of these engines, Unreal, Unity, or Godot, it can handle. I mean, it can help you create games without coding. That's not an issue. And there are tools. There's one thing. The car thing was done for one of our customers. they didn't want any of these engines. So they had, they have bought a tool called Verge 3D. Okay, yeah, it was for Kia. So just a second. It's called Verge 3D. You can download the trial and use it for however long you want. They're not going to ask for any money or anything. But in case you are planning to publish and remove the watermark that they have, you'll have to pay the licensing cost, which is like close to 30,000 or so. Unless you're professionally selling stuff, you don't have to get any of those things. But that doesn't involve any coding. It is just like the puzzle. What would you say? The scratch thing. The jigsaw puzzle kind of elements, blocks. I think it's called blocks in Google, right? I'm not sure. Akshay might know.
Block.
Yeah.
Code blocks.
Yeah, code blocks basically. Yeah.
Shiva, I think there is another.
Sir, your voice is.
Okay.
Voice.
The car is Sorento. Shiva was very keen on the car mode.
He's been asking for a long time.
Yeah, it's a Sorento.
Okay. Okay, guys, do you have any more questions? I'm sure it's going to be dinner time soon for all of us. So, do you have any? Of course, we'll love to stay for longer time.
I'm open for questions.
Unless you guys are like, don't have any questions. So, okay, we're not getting any questions. You don't bother typing. You can also unmute yourself and ask. Not a problem. Okay, I think Shiva, that's it. So thank you, Shiva. That was a wonderful experience. You just basically took us on a journey right from the beginning and how things began, the transition from 2D to 3D, and then where we are today and like where we are about to be in few decades. I think that was a lovely journey and gave us a lot of insights and perspectives. And participants, would you like to say something as a final, knowledge sharing that you want to do before we end the session, Shiva?
Sorry, you're asking me
something before we end the session, like.
Yeah, the general note, these terms, AR, VR, most of the time these things become ambiguous because we don't know what has happened before it. Okay. So when I start from a picture, that is the reason I started, it's a 2D, probably games are very convenient for now. We understand games. Then from a mouse to a gyro, it's easy for us to actually digest this kind of information. So, most or every technology that you're seeing right now, machine learning or AI or whatever stuff that's coming up these days, it has a starting point. Okay. So it's always better to explore backwards and find out where it all started. So that way it is easy for you to innovate in the future also. So you could be the person who would move, probably augmented reality to the next level or virtual reality to the next level. But for you to do that, that continuum of learning is fairly important. There would be a missing piece before what we currently know. So we'll have to go to the starting point. Probably you can go even beyond pictures, how printing started, how probably people drew on a stone. So that kind of learning would really help you innovate in any technology. So that would be my conclusive point that I would like to share. Yeah.
Thank you. So to move forward into the future, a bit of knowledge of the history is really helpful to move forward into the future. So thank you, Shiva. And there is one more question. I think Shivesh.
Yeah, Gameloft. I'm not very sure, but I can, of course, have a look at it and probably ping you. I think I have your number, Shivesh, so I'll just ping you.
Yeah.
On in direct message. Gameloft, probably.
Okay. Thank you, Shiva. So participants, if you would like to say, if you like the session, please type it. And what part you understood and what you didn't understand, you can type in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and say, share if you like the session or not. You can unmute yourself and say. I think there are.
Thanks, It was a nice session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to another session.
Yes, so you can say your thank yous and wishes, Majid, and then sign off. Yes, sorry, I spoke in a minute.
Thanks, sir. It was an awesome session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity. No, having good audiences really really matters for a
Yes,
speaker. You know, it was nice having all these questions, and no, thanks for the patience.
Thank you, Shiva. That was wonderful. We'll connect again soon. Yes.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You can sign off, Shiva. You
Yeah,
sign.
I'll do. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.